Trent, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to catching up with you. You and I have actually been connected on Facebook for a good while now, but I'm ashamed to say I can't remember how exactly we got connected. It might have been, was it through like the Order of Man, like
Probably was. I have a lot of
organization?
friends from there.
Okay, yeah, I thought so, but yeah, I was really looking forward to getting you on the podcast because since we've been connected, I've just been seeing you've been doing all kinds of amazing things. You're getting after it and your own right. You're getting out in the wild, you're getting active, you're getting fit. You're dialing in your job, your relationships, and everything. So I think there's something to that where people who are out there in the world who are getting after it and bettering themselves in some way, there's a way it has like a drawing effect, kind of like the law of attraction, if that makes sense. So I think that's
Yeah,
ultimately
definitely.
what brought us together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Absolutely.
Like
So,
your
well,
frequencies line up.
yeah, for sure. So that's kind of what I want to dive into, kicking this off, man, is just that, like I said, you are a man who is on the path, and as I say, the path to better yourself. So how did you kind of sort of find yourself on it? Take us back a little bit here and kind of tell us about where you sort of began your self-development journey.
Yeah, so I would start all the way from the beginning. When I was a little kid, I grew up as a fat kid. I actually weighed as much as I weigh right now in middle school when I was a foot and a half shorter.
Oh
So
man.
I was pretty big. And I also had a very rough childhood with alcohol, parents drinking alcohol. Dad passed away when I was about 15 from drinking alcohol. And, before that happened, I didn't like being a fat kid. I wanted to be confident. So I went out, I would go and stay up at my grandpa's house in Oregon. And I actually lost most of the weight initially by hunting, like deer hunting and elk hunting, hiking 7, 8 miles a day. This is probably when I was in like 14, 15 years old. And, and then I fell in love with going to the gym. So through high school, like sophomore year on, I started working out 2, 3 hours a day, lifting weights in the gym, mostly to build muscle. And I just fell in love with that. And it was also an escape from my reality at home. So I just really fell in love with working out. And basically from there, after I turned 18, my life started getting a little bit better in terms of I was more in control. I've been working full time since I was 15 to feed myself basically. And I think that forced me to grow up pretty fast. I'm 28 now, but I think I grew up a lot faster than a lot of people, in my early 20s and teenage years. But I just really I've always been in love with going to the gym, lifting weights, and just doing something to better yourself because the principles that apply to your health and fitness can be applied to any other area of life. It's the hard work, the commitment, and the consistency. And since then, I've definitely had many, many ups and downs. I work a blue collar schedule. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I I drive a big rig and I run a half lane asphalt milling machine. So 70,000 pound machine that rips up the highways. And I run that by myself. So I've spent probably half of this year in Nevada. I was all the way on the Utah border for a month and a half, Elko, all over California. And that makes it hard. But there came a time where I wanted to do more. I've always wanted to be more. And I think as men, we want to be more, but I think a lot of men struggle with that because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to go out and go on runs and work out and put yourself in those uncomfortable physical situations and social situations. So basically, just this one day, I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I just had this urge to do something. So I just decided to go climb this 10,000 foot mountain. It's actually 10 feet shy of 10,000 feet, just about an hour and a half from where I live. I live an hour in the mountains from Sacramento in California. So it's up by Lake Tahoe, if you've ever been there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's called Pyramid Peak. And there was 10 feet of snow on the ground. I had no experience. I've hiked, I've done a decent amount of hiking, a little bit of backpacking, but I had never climbed a mountain. So I just decided I'm going to go do it. It's 4,300 feet of elevation gain over 4 miles. So it's a pretty strenuous hike in terms of a hike. And I went and rented a pair of snowshoes at this time because I didn't have any gear. And I just decided I'm gonna get to the summit no matter what. I don't care how bad it hurts. And I did it. And from that day, I fell in love with climbing mountains. And since then, I've climbed that mountain, I think 8 or 9 times, and a lot of others. And that's where I fell in love with actually pushing myself to my limits.
What about just the idea of getting out in the wild? You know, a part of your story that stood out to me was talking about you would head up to Oregon and you would get out hunting, which, you know, especially like east side of that state, very wild, lots of dense forest and some elevation gains like out there too. It's just kind of like unpack that for us a little bit and just the feelings that you get with just getting out in the wild like that. And just well, you said that even where you live, you're close to Sacramento, but that is one thing I noticed about California is that the few cities that they do have, they're massive, densely compact, sprawled out cities. So
Mhm.
getting out in the wild, like, you know, what was kind of sort of the draw there?
So I've just always loved the outdoors. My grandpa that I would go stay with up there, he went to college for gunsmithing and he was a retired Los Angeles County sheriff. And he lived in near Coquille, so near Coos Bay, so actually on the coastal side, only about 10 miles from the coast. And he had 600 acres of logging company property behind him. And the logging company allowed him to patrol all that property to make sure, there's no trespassers. So I basically got to use that property as our own to go hunting and hiking every single day.
Nice. Wow. Very, very, very cool. So like, I know that this has continued to sort of been like a major part of your fitness journey as well. I think I saw, or you mentioned this on your podcast, that the way you were trying to cap off 2023 is you were trying to do like a certain mileage of, I think it was trail running, not just hiking, something along those lines.
Yeah, so I actually just got back about an hour and a half ago from a 10-mile trail run.
Nice.
In the past 9 days of the year, I ran I wouldn't say run because my work season just slowed down to where I can have more time to really do what I want to do, which is punish myself physically. Um, so I put 70 miles in over the course of 9 days, and that was basically coming from being reasonably sedentary in terms of my endurance training. So I went basically from going maybe doing like 5 or 6 miles once or twice a week for the past 3 or 4 months to doing 10 miles a day basically for 4 days, took a day off, another 3 days. And then I just took 2 days off the last 2 days to kind of recover a little bit. And then today I actually beat my time by 30 minutes. So for my 10 mile.
Nice. Well done, man. Well, a lot of people would say that, oh, that's crazy to get out there that much and to cover that much distance. But kind of a funny thing though is I don't think I mentioned this to you when you and I were connecting, is that I'm an archaeologist by day. So I like to look back on, you know, those who came before us and what they've done. But really what you're describing, like a few hundred years ago, a couple thousand years ago, that was just daily life. Like, I mean, we had to go out and cover long distances to track and hunt game and to carry it back to our camps, or we'd have to go that far to battle or whatever the case may be. But it's a lot different in the modern day, though, where it's just we have to manufacture hardship, and then, but in doing so, that's how we grow. You know, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, or excuse me, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100% because as you said, life used to be a lot harder. Gyms weren't a thing until like 60, 70 years ago or something around there.
Right.
Your life was a gym. You
Yeah.
didn't have all the machinery to do all the work for you and that kind of stuff. And it kind of goes to the term that everybody's seen. It's like, hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men create hard times. I believe that it's our civic duty as men, especially in this country, to put ourselves through hardship to make ourselves strong. Because I believe with what we're seeing in society right now, with like the entitlement and basically just the breakdown in values of hard work, integrity, and that kind of stuff, is all due to society doing everything for you. All you have to do is show up to work and make money, and you can sit on your couch all day. Other than that, you could go to the grocery store. You don't have to hunt for your food. You don't have to chop wood to make, I actually have to chop wood. I live on 10 acres up in the mountains. So our only way of heat is me going out and chopping wood. I don't have a wood splitter by choice just because I'd rather go chop it by hand. So I believe it's our duty as men to put ourselves through hardships to make ourselves strong.
Absolutely. And also in today's society, as you and I have probably seen, is that there's a little bit of a demonization of things like masculinity and being strong and capable and self-sufficient. I mean, even as going far as, labeling some people who are like, more self-sufficient and self-sustaining. As like, do you ever follow Fieldcraft Survival, Mike Glover and all his
Yeah,
stuff? Well,
I
like,
fought.
yeah, like he's been labeled like a domestic terrorist because he preaches like preparation and survival and being self-sufficient, self-sustaining. But what I see when people like say things like that, is that we have it really, really good. Like we actually have the luxury to complain about trivial things like that. But of course, when everything goes wrong, no one is complaining about masculinity or using the term toxic masculinity because suddenly, when like a hurricane comes through or some other natural disaster leaves us without power, suddenly we want strong, capable, masculine individuals to get out there to conduct rescues, to repair and fix things and rebuild. So it just kind of goes to show just how good we actually really have it in this day and age that we have the luxury to complain about those things.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So, all right. So now with your life doing work as a blue collar individual, one thing I have noticed about you construction guys is that you guys like your overtime. So you are putting in a lot of hours just in your job alone. But of course, you also have obligations that you have to fulfill as a husband. And of course, now with your role as a podcaster and what you're doing with that, and I know you're coaching and helping like other men on the side too. So needless to say, you're called to a lot of different areas right now. So it's just, how are you kind of going about managing all those things? I think I initially was going to ask about balance, but I don't think we can really fully strike a balance with everything. But it's just managing all those different roles and responsibilities. What's that looking like for you, man?
Yeah, so it's definitely tough. I spent close to 200 days in a hotel this year on the road. My wife doesn't really like it, but she's very supportive. It's definitely imperative to do the kind of work that I do to have a supporting wife that understands and appreciates you working so hard. Podcasting, got to plan it out, got to be prepared because I work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, a lot of 12 to 16-hour days, sometimes 6, 7 days a week. Right now it's the slow season because it is road construction and there's not so much road construction in the winter. So I'm taking this time out to work, 16 hours a day on my business, on trail running, on working out and becoming the best version of myself that I can possibly become. And it is a challenge doing that through the work season. And that's why, my coaching program is mostly based around helping busy blue collar guys, because I understand through many trials and errors over the year that it is extremely hard to balance and, follow through for yourself when you feel so exhausted after working all the time, being out in the heat and stuff like that, especially being in a hotel. There's a lot of excuses that come over like, I don't have a gym to use right now. Well, you could go on a walk or you can go use the hotel gym that might only have 30-pound dumbbells, but do 100 reps instead of 20 or 15. And so it's pretty tough. The balance with my wife is pretty tough because I'm gone a lot. I was gone in Wendover working on Highway 80 at the Utah Nevada border for a month and a half straight. Didn't see her for a whole month and a half straight. And she's just understanding. Same with Elko on Highway 80. We did a lot of Highway 80 through Nevada this year. And it's really just about having a vision in your mind and knowing what you want your life to create and making sure that your family and everybody that's going to make sacrifices on board with that. And, when it comes down to it, women, I'm not sure if you have a wife or you have, um, women are pretty simple, like us as men. It's taken me 7 years of being with her to figure this out really, but it's pretty simple. You just got to make them feel like they matter. You got to do little things for them, like maybe leave them a card, not even like all the time, but, few times throughout the year, flowers, every couple months, and just sit down and talk to them. No phone, no distractions, and just talk to them and ask them how they're doing. And if you do those things, it's really pretty simple to keep them happy. Some of them, my wife is maybe a little bit easier than some others, but it's worked for me.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling. Yeah, right now I'm a single guy as we're recording, so I'm doing the whole dating thing. I think like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, a lot of men kind of have that mindset that once they're actually able to secure the relationship where they actually got a girl to say, yes to being his girlfriend or accepting like his proposal for marriage, they think at that point, okay, now they're set. Now they can kind of sort of taper off and, they don't have to put in nearly as much effort as they did when they were trying to court her initially. But I think it's the exact opposite, though. If anything, you need to double down to keep that spark going with, like you said, those romantic gestures or just like throwing some surprises in there, I suppose. And so I'm assuming like that's probably been your case, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I'm not good at it by any means. I'm talking from my failures that, I'm always in self-improvement and I'll never have everything figured out, but I'm slowly figuring it out. And that's one thing is just for women, just make them feel special and do something for them once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, changing gears a little bit here, I want to talk a little bit more about you getting out and doing your hiking and your trail running. Is there any place in particular that you kind of see on the horizon that you really want to get to? I mean, with you living on the West Coast, there's so much natural splendor on that side of the country, and I haven't been out to the West Coast in a while. I think I was in California like 5 years ago, something like that. So it's been a hot minute. Between you and me, I don't really care to visit any California cities, but again, I want to get like I know California has some amazing national parks, but yeah, but what's on your mind? I mean, is there any places out there that you really want to get to?
Yeah, so well, in terms of California, a lot of people have like a very negative connotation of California, which yes, our government, I'm not too happy with that. I don't really like state sales tax. But other than that, like the landscape here is like, one of the most beautiful places in the world. If you stay out of the cities, like you said, the only reason I go to the cities is for work. um, but in the future, I have some big plans. Obviously, I'm a few hours from I'm in the Sierras, but the northern Sierras, the high Sierras have a lot of beautiful places. And I've done a handful of 14,000 foot peaks in the Sierras, like Mount Whitney, Mount Williamson, Mount Langley, and a few others. Mount Shasta in the Cascades in Northern California is a 14er, and a lot of 13ers and 12,000 and 11,000 and 10,000 foot peaks I've done. But I would say one of the objectives that I have that me and a couple of my climbing partners have right now is we want to do Aconcagua possibly next springtime, which is in the Andes in South America. And that mountain is the tallest mountain outside of the Himalayas, and it's about 23,000 feet, just shy of 23,000 feet.
Yeah, and that's also the largest mountain in South America too. It's one of the seven summits.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Now, a lot of these like 14ers that you were just describing, or like the 14, the mountains that are in the tens of thousands feet at elevation, were they very like technical? Did you have to do like technical skills training to do them, or were they pretty hikeable? I haven't really had a whole lot of experience with mountaineering myself, so I'm curious how that works.
So I would say the toughest one that I've done in the Sierras was Mount Williamson. I clocked about 10,500 feet of elevation gain. So it's the second tallest mountain in California. People like to nickname it the K2 of the Sierras.
Hmm.
So let's say Mount Whitney. Everybody knows about Mount Whitney. It's the tallest mountain in the lower 48.
Right.
It's 14,508 feet. You drive up to 7,000 feet, 7 or 8,000 feet up to Whitney Portal, and you start from there. So that ends up being about 7,000 feet of elevation gain. And I did that pretty early in my hiking and mountain peak bagging career. And that's a fun one. I did the main trail. I need to go back and do the mountaineers route because it's a little bit more technical. but Mount Williamson starts at the bottom of Owens Valley. So you basically start at 4,000 feet and climb to 14,380 feet. And the hike up to Shepherd's Pass is brutal because I was a two. Let's see, I think I did that in 2 days. And or I think I hiked up Shepherd's with a 50-pound backpack, 7,000 feet of elevation gain, um, to the point where I had to talk myself into taking another step. It was so hard. And a lot of these things I do, like it's like I didn't really train a lot for them. I just like started training a few weeks out and then I go and do them. And by the time I got to the top of Shepherd's, I was completely exhausted. And I met two girls on the trail. We ended up hiking together. I summited the next day with my friend Bree now that I actually just summited Rainier with for the second time this year. And basically there's a chute, probably about 2,000 foot chute. That's pretty loose. It's not too bad though. It's like class two, class three, probably class two up to the chimney. And then there's like a 40, 50 foot chimney. That's class three. And basically it's like you leave your backpack down and there's a point where you have to like, it's like a crack about, that goes up to the summit ridge and you got to like do like a beach whale type of thing, like push on the wall with your back and kind of shimmy up. So it's that's considered a class three route. So no gear or anything, and you could definitely mess up. I've done a lot of peaks where one mistake would definitely mean severe injury or death, but it's not to the point where you'd use gear.
Gotcha. Now, class systems, how does that work when it comes to mountains? Because you talked about class two and three, that you still wouldn't necessarily need like technical gear to pull off, but does it get higher than that? Is there like four and five out there or
Oh
what?
yeah. So like I don't know all the numbers exactly, but like class five would be like your easiest rock wall in a rock climbing gym. So like you're
Okay.
on a wall with handholds and footholds climbing an actual wall. Class four is more like you got like ledges and stuff, but it all depends on the exposure and you got to get comfortable with the exposure because it's still like one slip or mistake and you're going to fall however much that exposure is. I've been on stuff where there's 4,000 feet of exposure where if you make one mistake, you're going to fall, a few thousand feet.
Hmm.
And then like, let's say El Capitan, that's like a 5 point, like the one that Alex Honnold did, in free solo. That's like I don't know. I mean, there might be some climbing people that watch this and they're like, oh, he doesn't know the numbers, but it's like a 5 point, like, I don't know, like 1-4 or something like that. Like once they get up to class five, they go to like decimal points and go up from there. But I haven't gotten into much of that yet. I've done some climbing in a gym just to get better at my peak bagging skills. But other than that, I haven't actually gotten into rock climbing.
Gotcha. Yeah, like this whole world is kind of new to me. It's certainly something that I would like to do, but of course, here in South Texas,
Yeah.
we don't have that much in the way of high mountains. But I'm sure I can get up to like Colorado or like we talked about, push further out west to do it. So you got Aconcagua coming up, and so you're going for one of the seven summits. Is like I guess at what point would you kind of say, are you kind of at that point right now where you're just consistently just trying to top your mountaineering like endeavors? I mean, Aconcagua is going to be the highest peak that you've done so far, but there are still even higher ones out there than that. So, I guess where does it end, man? Like, where does it end?
It's hard to say. Um, so I just did, like I said, I just climbed Mount Rainier for the second time this year. I did it a couple years ago, and then I just did it again this year with my friend Bree that I met on Williamson. And that's basically like the stepping stone to going to go do like Denali and then to the Himalayas and it's the most prominent peak in the lower 48, most glaciated peak in the lower 48. So on that one, you actually have to rope up with a harness with a partner, preferably three people. I've always done it with a two-person rope team, which isn't ideal because I always weigh like, 50, 60 pounds more than that person. And if I were to fall into a crevasse, I'd probably pull them in. But, sometimes you just got to go for it. So Mount Rainier twice. That's a pretty tough mountain. Performed really well on that this year. And Aconcagua isn't. It's more of a hike, but it's a tall mountain. So I would consider myself a high point seeker. Like I want to hit all the high points. And and then after that, another stepping stone. It's not as tall, but it's a harder climb and definitely a lot more risk. would be Mount Denali in Alaska.
Right. Well, regardless of what mountain you go for, I mean, it's not just the elevation that's going to make them challenging too. Of course, these are snow-capped mountains. It's going to be cold up there, and it's not going to be an endeavor you can complete in a day either. You know, you're going to be out
No.
there for a little bit. So, you're talking like deep negative degree temperatures up
Yeah.
there too. So it's going to be getting familiar with gear and doing all that sort of stuff. And probably before you, I would imagine before you go down to do Aconcagua, you're going to have to do a couple of like in the through hiking community, which is more my adventuring background. We call them shakedown hikes, where we take like gear and we test it like for ourselves to see, what works, what, falters. And then so that way we can kind of adjust our packing list accordingly when we do the big endeavors that we have. So you're probably going to have to do some shakedown climbs before you go and do something big like that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't really consider Aconcagua something that you really need to be like, well, I mean, you got to be in good physical shape, but there's not as far as I know, there's no on the main route, there's not like glaciers that you have to traverse and stuff. Denali is a different story because the glacier travel is the dangerous part when you're doing big mountains like that. Because if you fall into a crevasse and your team can't get you out, then you're done. And but Denali is definitely a different beast. And then that's the same stuff you got to deal with when you go to the Himalayas. Like on Everest, you got the Khumbu ice fall, which a lot of people die in that. And it's basically a giant glacier with crevasses everywhere. And a crevasse can be 300-400 feet deep of just, a black abyss in the ice.
Yeah, and then also there's the other set of challenges too. Like if you were to go out to the Himalayas, of course, like there's a pretty big community out that way surrounding like the mountain climbs there. But then of course, if you're going to go like up north into Alaska to do Denali, like Denali is like out there, like way
Mm.
out in the middle of nowhere. So getting there logistically is going to be challenging, but it's going to be even more challenging if you need to get rescued or if you need to get evacuated due to like some kind of injury. So it's one of those things where, yeah, if things go south, so to speak, is that you got to be ready to endure for a while before help arrives.
Yeah, definitely. And the Aconcagua would definitely be something I could do. We're gonna look into it maybe for like next winter because that's down around the equator. So you'd go down like winter time here. Denali, you'd have to go in the summertime. And as of right now, I do have a big mission with my business and stuff. So I don't plan on being a heavy equipment operator forever. But with my job, I wouldn't be able to go and do those things in the summer months. But Aconcagua, since it's in the winter, I could.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you're talking about taking a winter trip to somewhere cold because for most people it's the exact opposite. They want to escape the cold winter place that they live to go someplace warmer. But and it's actually kind of funny that you bring that up because I'm actually planning a cold destination for next winter as well. I'm planning a trip to Greenland for next December, which is when my birthday is. But wintertime there is the best time to do dog sled tours, and that's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So, but yeah, and it's pretty mild. We have mild winters down here in South Texas, and so, but I'm going to be leaving my mild wintry Texas to go to someplace cold for the winter because up in Greenland, there's they pretty much have like permanent ice sheet on that whole island. So there's no roads or highways connecting the towns. All the towns are on the coast. You can either go by sea or you fly or you go by dog sled. Like that's it in that
That's pretty
country.
cool.
Yeah.
That'd be
So
awesome. I've
yeah,
always thought Iceland looks super cool.
yeah, Iceland, I'd like to get back to as well. I only did like a 24-hour layover in Reykjavik, the capital.
Mhm.
But yeah, that country is calling to me just as well too. All right, man. So speaking of which, you're talking about wanting to double down on your business and on your brand, and of course, you've been doing the Command Project for how long now? Like, kind of, sort of, when you kind of sort of kick this up?
I don't know, probably a little over a year ago.
Okay,
And then
and yeah, tell us a little bit about it and what you're all about.
yeah, so the Command Project, I'm launching a brand new coaching program right now to help blue collar guys because I care about blue collar guys because I'm one and I see so many that struggle with their their excuses with their busy schedule and eating fast food all the time and that kind of stuff. Where I'll help them lose 30 to 40 pounds in 3 months without having to eat salad or run a single mile if they don't choose to. So the Command Project is really, it's about creating the next generation of leaders to make living with integrity badass again. It's really my go at fixing the problems that I see in the world. And it all starts on the individual level. And that's why I'm starting with health and fitness, because that's what I have expertise in. Other than, you know, other than having like 14 years of weightlifting experience and doing a lot of, endurance type stuff. I have like multiple nutrition coaching certifications, personal training certifications that I got on the side because I'm, very passionate about health and fitness. And I do think that is the foundation of your life. And if you don't have a strong foundation like your house, it'll collapse. What good is become when you're 40 or 50 and you're a millionaire and you have a business or, you have a family and stuff if you have heart disease when you turn 50. So you got to have that strong foundation of health and fitness. And on top of that, the principles that apply to getting healthy and getting fit apply to every other area of life and being successful in it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One of the things that I say is that, your body is the vessel with which you will do all things. And if you have it running optimally, then just all areas of your life are naturally going to improve. And quite frankly, people count on us to be physically fit and to be physically capable. Like in your case, being a blue collar worker as well as other blue collar workers, is that, your crews are relying on you to bring your best self out to the job site every single day, especially when you're like doing a lot of dangerous stuff, operating a lot of this heavy machinery. And, some of it has to be operated with like near surgical precision, just about, especially when I see like backhoes and excavators and everything. So it's just, yeah, if you're running sluggish, out day and you have to like get through the day by just, feeling up on like, caffeine and
Oh,
sarcasm, as I
I
say.
lost the audio. Oh, there it is.
Okay. Yeah. We've been cutting in and out. So, but yeah, but I was just saying that like, you know, your crews that you're working alongside with, they're counting on you to bring your best self each day, and I think physical fitness is one of the best ways to ensure that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is. And it will also make, like you're saying, it will make you show up as a better version of yourself in every area of your life. So helping an individual doesn't just help that person, it helps everything that has to do with their life. It helps them out their work, it helps their family. And really, like I said, it's like the mission. So the coaching is really to help the individual and start a community, but it's really to unify individuals who believe in growing, consistent personal growth. Like I got my sign here, the Command Project is our core values are unity, integrity, growth. So individuals who live with integrity believe in putting more into the world than they take out, because I think that's something that's missing from the world today. Also, integrity in yourself means, other than like outward integrity of being a good person, doing the right thing, helping others, respecting others, it also has to do with you keeping the commitments and the promises you made to yourself. That also is integrity. And then people that want to consistently grow and become a better version of themselves, if we can unify people that want to become basically excellent in their own lives around a common mission as highly effective individuals to become the next generation of leaders to make living with integrity badass again, I see that as being what our world needs right now with the whole breakdown in values and hard work, and nobody wants to work now. People are entitled, and the whole social justice movement and all that kind of stuff that's kind of degrading our society. I believe that we need something that's going to unify people around a common mission of personal excellence to basically um, to turn it around. And it's really about setting an example for others around you to follow, whether it's your friends, your family, if you have kids, or even your friends' kids. Everybody wants something to look up to. A little touch on like from my childhood is in some of the hard years, the only people I had to look up to that I lived with were gang members. And there's years where my plan, I was kind of a shithead little kid because of my environment. I always had like a good head on my shoulders in terms of I didn't want to like do anything, bad integrity wise, but still made plenty of mistakes. And the only people I had to look up to were gang members. And, for a while I thought that was what I was going to do. When I turned 18, I was going to join their gang. And there came a point where I decided, obviously that actually those people are losers, and a real man actually like grows a family, supports a family, and becomes somebody that others look up to. So I believe that the like what I'm talking about with all the breakdown in the breakdown in society is it all comes down to a lack of leadership, because people want somebody to look up to, but there's very few people in the world that are actually a good person that is setting a good example for those around them. So it leads to people in masses following the wrong people. So that's why I want to create a big group of people that are setting an example for the next generation to follow. And that's basically my attempt at fixing the problems I see in the world. And in doing so, you're going to create a better life for yourself too.
Well, I really like that you're talking about building community here because I think that's a critical component to this, surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, there's that saying, and I know you've heard this, is that, you're the average of the five people that you spend the most time with. So it's like if you're hanging around with five wealthy people, you're going to become the sixth wealthy person. Or if you're hanging around, five fit and strong and healthy people, well, then you're going to become the sixth fit and strong and healthy person. So, and because I found as I gone through my life, like I'm in my late 30s now, it's just my friend circle has gotten a lot smaller, but the quality of that small circle of friends is very like outstanding. Just because I'm trying to surround myself, well, frankly, with people who are better than me in so many different avenues, and like just to name drop a few people, it's like my buddy Colin's a better hunter than me. My buddy Kyle is a better writer than me, and then Grant is a better fighter than I am. So, and I'm perfectly okay with that because that's how I know I'm going to improve. Is I'm hanging out with people who are excelling in life in different avenues, and I take a little bit from each one of them. So I agree with you. Connecting with like-minded people and that cohesion, that's very critical to just not only our growth but the growth of others and the advancement of society, frankly, too, just as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so like the foundation of my business is really, I got like a whole online thing too that goes through it, but I wrote this book probably a year and a half ago. It's Take Command of Your Mind, Body, and Future, because I believe that's the first step to you taking command of your life. You have to take command of your body and then forge a resilient mindset so that you can actually follow through for yourself to achieve the goals that you set. And then you have to be able to envision and decide what you want your future to look like, and then become the person who will create that future. So instead of like just sitting there and thinking like about the cars you want, like you can do that. I think that stuff might help a little bit. But instead of thinking about like the house you want, which I do think you should do this stuff as well. But more importantly than envisioning like the actual life you want and the things you want is envisioning who you must become to be that person. Like simply go like what do you want your body to look like? Next time you take a shower, look down at your body and think, is this the best that I can do? Is this what I want to look like? And then envision what you want your body to look like, and then decide, yeah, I do coach people on this stuff, but when it comes down to it, you could go on Google and find a workout program. You can go on a 30-minute walk. You know that you should probably be eating high protein, maybe more vegetables and less processed foods. It's not rocket science. You just got to look down, envision what you want, and start taking the actions towards creating that in your life.
Yeah, and then also, if I could add to that, actually doing it too, because we just turned over into 2024, so a lot of people are probably excited to tell like others about their New Year's resolutions and what they want to achieve and like 2024, and it sounds very, very good when they talk about it. But as you and I both know, talk is cheap. It's like don't just talk about it, be about it. So if there's something you want to do, well, actually go like show us by going out and doing it, taking that action.
Yeah, I just made a podcast on that last night and dropped it today for New Year's. It's just a reminder. It's like if you set the same New Year's resolutions as you did this year, as you did last year in 2023 and 2022, then you got to make a decision now. There's got to be something that you're going to have to change. And that one thing is literally just following through for yourself on the days that you don't want to follow through. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good to have those goals, but then also like a goal without a plan is just a wish too. It's not only you got to know how you want to get to those goals, And then the most critical component is the day in, the day out, actually working towards those goals too. Because, it's not something that, I think there's some degree to, like you said, with visualization and everything like that. But it's just, it's not going to manifest itself just because you think about it or visualize it. It's going to manifest itself through the work.
Yeah. But the visualization of deciding what you want is what will help you create the roadmap to achieving it.
Absolutely. So, all right, man. So kind of speaking of that, let's talk like goals for 2024. What do you kind of see for yourself on the horizon for this year? And I guess we can talk about this with both the command project and I guess just in the terms of adventuring and getting out in the wild.
So right now, with business wise, I have a small group of guys in the community, and we declare our goals to each other. So this is kind of the community that I'm starting. I also do like I help people one on one, but I'm also working on starting a community because the community is what we need, especially as men, and we need other men to be able to talk to about our problems too. Because usually as men, we kind of keep it all inside. We don't really talk about it. And a big thing with people falling through for themselves, you have to have accountability. But for a lot of people, they don't have personal accountability. They don't hold themselves accountable. So the best next option that you can actually work up to being able to hold yourself personally accountable is to have other people to declare your goals to so that they can hold you accountable. Because as men, we don't want to tell our buddies in our group or whatever that, we're going to do this time. We're going to, lose that 30 pounds. We're going to, be able to, deadlift 500 pounds or whatever your goal might be. For me right now, I'm working on getting down to 10% body fat, and I want to be able to do my 10 miles in an hour and 40 minutes. And my initial goal is to do 10 miles every single day. Right now, I'm sort of taking a day break and, between, every few days or so because my legs have been getting smoked. But we don't want to break that promise. If we're okay breaking that promise to ourselves, a lot of us still aren't okay with breaking that promise to our buddies or the people that we care about. So sometimes in order to keep the promises to yourself, you got to first start by being accountable to other people. And that's what's so important with the community.
All right. Outstanding, man. All right. Well, speaking of taking action, that's what my next question is going to entail. And this is a question that I actually ask all my guests on the show because, like we said, talk is cheap. Don't just talk about it, be about it, and go do it. So I usually like to ask my guests to issue a challenge to our listeners. So with that, what challenge would you issue to our listeners today for them to go out there and start living a more adventurous life?
So a more adventurous life. So I would say the most important thing that if there's like a hobby or something that you want to start doing, like I started climbing mountains and I absolutely fell in love with it. Um, if you want to do something like that, don't wait for other people to go with you. Go do it by yourself. I went alone for 4 or 5 years before I found one person that wanted to go with me. And now I have a handful of friends that like to go do this stuff. Plenty of friends that will never do it with me, but you can't keep waiting for somebody else to go with you. You just got to go do the thing. And I think it's also very good mentally for you to go out and do things like that yourself. And I don't care what hobby it is. It might be golfing, or it might be climbing mountains, going backpacking, going on hikes. There's something about being by yourself with your own thoughts that is so refreshing, and it's just so good for your mental state. So I would say if you want to do something, if you want to start being more adventurous, if you want to have better life experiences, don't wait for people to come with you. Start going alone and you will find your people.
All right. Outstanding. All right. So what I have for you next is my final three. These are also three questions that I ask all my guests at the end of the show. I like to think that they're fun questions, but we will just see about that. And the first of these three questions is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
So that's a tough one because I've been to a lot of cool places. Um, Went to Hawaii for the first time this year. That was beautiful. But for me, the most beautiful places are where I'm struggling to take one more step. So Mount Rainier is absolutely beautiful, but I got to say that my favorite place I've ever been to is Ansel Adams Wilderness, Mount Ritter. And I had a vendetta with that mountain for a few years. It's it along with its the mountain that's attached to it, Mount Banner Peak. is basically the most prominent peaks in the Sierra. They're not the tallest. They're about Mount Ritter's 13,160 feet right there somewhere. And I attempted it 3 times and failed. The third time I almost died because I took the wrong chute and everything. I was like on an 80% chute and everything around me wanted to give way. And I figured I should continue climbing the next 700 feet, then go back down. So there came this one time, and this happened about 7 times, but there was this one time I remember, and it was a big life lesson for me. This is after I decided to continue up because I felt like if I were to go down, it would have caused rock fall on top of me and it would have ended up ugly. So I ascended the next like 700 feet of this chute. And there came this time where there was about 15 feet this way to the wall on the chute and about 10 or 15 feet that way. And everything around me was loose and was about to give way. And I felt my heart rate started to rise. So I was about to panic. I was 10 miles from the trailhead on this 13,200 foot mountain, nobody else around, and I was in a bad spot. So I had this vision in my head of me laying down below about 500 feet below, mangled in bad shape. And in that moment, I snapped myself out of it and I said, right now, if you panic, you're dead. So I took a deep breath in, exhaled, and that's how important your breath is. People don't understand breathing is the most important thing in your life, and most people don't know how to breathe properly. So that's just a little tip: learn how to breathe properly because you can control your heart rate. And then in that moment, I made the right choices because I focused on my breath and I moved very slowly and made it the rest of the way up the chute without causing a rock slide or falling. But anyways, Mount Ritter had a vendetta with it. Finally summited it. After I summited Mount Rainier for the first time. After that, I was like, all right, piece of cake. And it's amazing. It's like for 3,500 foot class 3 ascent. You have to traverse a glacier, but around that mountain, on the side of Banner Peak, you have Thousand Island Lakes. This is just on the eastern side of Yosemite National Park, so it's like on the eastern edge of Yosemite. And then on the side where you do the Southeast Glacier Route on Ritter is called Lake Ediza, and that is one of the most beautiful places that you'd ever seen. And I would say that that's my favorite place I've been. One more place is Big Pine Lakes, which is in John Muir Wilderness. I think it's lake number three, and you have Castle Crag in the background, and it's just this turquoise water, all glacier water from the Palisade Crest and the Palisade Glacier. It's amazing.
So I got some stuff to add to the list now. Very good.
Okay.
Hell yeah, man. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right. So the next question in this final three: what is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
Well, one thing. Obviously, we went over the mountain stuff, so they already know that. I have this urge. I've always been more of a bodybuilder type. Like I've always been a weightlifter. Always had a lot more muscle. I'm only 5'10", weigh 210 pounds now, mostly muscle. I could lose a few pounds, which I'm working on right now. But this seems crazy because I'm a bigger person, but I want to do an ultra marathon because I just love endurance. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this running 10 miles on the trail every day is, I'd like to train and actually we got the Western States 100-mile race right here. It's like a well-known race, like people like Cameron Haynes and, I don't know if Goggins has done it, but like ultra runners like that do it. Kind of like the Leadville 100 in Colorado. But, I would like to do an ultra marathon. Maybe I'll start with a 30-mile one. For some reason, a marathon doesn't excite me. So I think I'd go. I don't know if you can. You might have to qualify by doing a marathon, but I don't have any interest in running on the road. But I want to do an ultra marathon. Maybe work up to where I could do 100.
Well, that'll also just make you more versatile too. I mean, yeah, if you can put up like some heavy weights in the gym, but then also run really really far, it's just and I see a lot of people kind of veering that way, having that more hybrid style build to themselves.
It's definitely very appeasing to feel like you're a highly capable man.
Right, absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, so the last question in this final three, and this is a two-parter. What is your favorite animal, and have you seen this animal in the wild?
So I would say my favorite animal are dogs because I love dogs. In the wild, I would say favorite, but also terrifying, a bear.
Hmm. There is something to be said about apex predators. It's just yeah, they could rip us apart effortlessly if they wanted to,
Yeah.
but I think that's just part of the admiration. You know, if you see just such a powerful creature out in nature, you just can't help but look at it in awe. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And I would say I like them a lot less recently because they tear up my garbage all the time. We
Oh,
have like four
really?
around my house. So it's definitely made me consider getting a bear tag. But one more bucket list item is I got a bow. I bought my buddy's prime Black 3 bow, and I want to kill an elk with it. So I want to start bow hunting.
Where do you think you want to go do that at?
Um, it's a bummer because I think I forgot about it because yesterday, like I told you, I accidentally spilt water on my $2,500 laptop I bought a year ago. So I had to go buy another one yesterday. It's like $3,000 laptop, MacBook
Mm.
Pro. But so that kind of sucked. But I think I forgot it. But I was supposed to put in for Montana elk yesterday, but I think that was the cutoff. But we've also talked about doing a caribou hunt on Kodiak Island
Wow,
archery. That would be pretty cool.
that
So
would
that's
be
kind of
amazing.
my thing is like I have very limited time with my job right now, especially like when all the hunting seasons are happening. So my thing is like once I get my business off the ground, I have more time freedom. Like I will be doing badass shit all the time.
All right, right on, man. Well, Trent, that's it, man. That's all the questions that I have for you today. But before we wrap it up here, where can our listeners go connect with you? You just, you got the podcast out there. You also got a book out there too. So where can we go and find everything?
So you can find everything on my Instagram. So it's Trent_Ebersole. Go to my Instagram. I have a link tree in there with my YouTube channel where I post all my podcasts. I have my podcasts on there, on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever you listen on. And then I have, if you are interested, you could go to my website there. You could also go to my Facebook and you could find everything there as well. I also have this book on Amazon Kindle. You would have to contact me directly for a hardcover because I was kind of picky. I wanted it like high quality, hardcover the way I wanted it. But you can get it on Kindle, and I think I made it as cheap as I could, $1, because I'm more about providing as much value as I can for free rather than extracting from people because I'm actually trying to help, improve the world, and I'm actually trying to help improve people's lives. I'm also in the process. I've only done 2 chapters, but I'm actually doing an audiobook where I read the whole book on my podcast right now. So I'll be dropping the about me section where I actually kind of talk about my whole life story, which is very hard. It's very hard, emotional for me to read all that stuff because I've only talked about it to my wife. But you can also get the book there for free if you want to listen on my podcast, which is the Command Podcast.
All right, and I'll get links in the show notes for this episode, or if we have viewers watching the video of us talking on YouTube, it'll be in the description below. So our listeners and viewers can go and find the links there. All right. Well, Trent, I want to thank you very much for taking time for joining me today. And, I'm glad that we were finally able to get a collab going here because, like I said, we've been connected for a good while now. So I think it was, about time that we made something like this happen. So thanks for being here today and sharing your stories and your insight with myself and the listeners, man. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Right on, brother.